Yep, talking about Candid again, the anonymous chat app. I just keep finding more and more interesting things to feed you folks, so get comfortable. But first, special thanks to Shoe on Head. She's one of the YouTubers who made a promo vid, and she's been very helpful, even helping me to test the filter. Other YouTubers who advertised this, though, not quite as helpful for some reason. The Amazing Atheist, for example, saw my video and says he stands by his endorsement of this app. As a reminder, here's part of his endorsement.
I know the people behind Candid, and they have a commitment to making their app as free speech friendly as possible.
I'm sure he still honestly believes that, and is not hoping to be paid a third time, having made 2 sponsored videos. Anyway, on the topic of this app being as free speech friendly as possible, here's another ad I found. This time from Sensei Ashitamasu. She's more of what I bet a few of you would call an SJW. So, the opposite of someone like Black Pigeon Speaks. And what I find fascinating is that their adverts are opposites too. Here's a clip of his ad.
Look, we are living in an increasingly controlled environment. What I like about this app is that when people are free to say anything, insightful ideas that you would normally not hear can percolate.
And here's what Sensei says she likes about this app.
So, Candid has these badges. Can you guys see them? There we go. So you can give people badges, and you see the one that says hater. If someone leaves a post that is mean and nasty and disgusting and using racial slurs and cursing people out and not encouraging dialogue, you can hit them with that hater badge. And if they get hit with the hater badge too many times, they get banned from the app. How fucking awesome is that? Like, kick your ass out of here.
Now, thankfully, that doesn't seem to be quite right. Myself and others have tested the app, and it doesn't look like you can apply badges directly to people. You can't pick out the badge you want to pin on them. What you can do, though, is give posts a negative rating or report to them. Presumably, that would contribute toward them getting the hater badge and then being kicked off. But I'm not going to help them clear this up too much, because a representative of Candid knows about her video, has seen her video, and hasn't said anything to correct her or straighten it out. And why would I do their job for them? Ladies and gentlemen, meet Angelo Cartas. Here's his LinkedIn page. He's marketing and operations manager at MyLikes. MyLikes and Candid have the same owners, and on Candid's website it says it is spun out of MyLikes. MyLikes being a social media advertising platform. Now, this guy seems to be in charge of negotiating and securing paid promotional videos and building and maintaining strong relationships with the people who make them. It also appears that he's meant to be keeping an eye on the content that's made, and it looks like he has. Underneath that Ban Happy Ladies ad, he has commented, or more accurately, he has replied to someone's comment. Some random guy called Ross Kitson says, "This app is probably going to have to remove a lot of people to begin with. There's nothing trolls hate more than being told they're trolls, and will undoubtedly harass the entire app the way they harass people. It's good to see someone come up with an intuitive way of combating the problem." To which Angelo Cartas, marketing and operations manager, responds, "Candid is the first anonymous app to completely integrate artificial intelligence user sentiment machine learning. We've developed an advanced natural language processing technology to analyze all posts. Its purpose is to remove objectionable content, flag negative posts." That sounds kinda familiar. But it's fine, it's totally different, because you see it says objectionable content, not negative content, and it says negative posts, not negative content. And I mean, it's not like they have a team of people going around to flag things. It's just a so-called AI filter that checks every single thing that anyone posts ever on the website, and flags it if it's deemed negative before anyone even sees it. So it can be checked by Candid's team. You know, just like how when YouTube heroes will be reporting stuff, what they flag will be checked by YouTube's team. It's totally different though, don't worry. It only matters when this kind of thing happens to videos. Back to the post. Its purpose is to remove objectionable content, flag negative posts, and redirect off-topic comments to appropriate groups. We have the sentiment analysis model to identify hate speech, slander, and threats. Brilliant. Yet another significantly different description of what the bot does from someone who represents the company. Really works to help me trust them. Now let's take a little break before we get back to the more serious stuff. I ran an experiment on Mundane Matt. I decided to provoke the shit out of him to see what would happen. I think it started here. Matt tweeted, "I find harmful opinions video on Candid to be interesting. but I take umbrage with his trade trust for cash line. As a side note, that's just how I describe sponsored content and native advertising. Taking cash in return for saying something's good to people who trust you. That's why you get comments like this on sponsored videos, right? Anyway, Matt said what he said, and I responded like this. He didn't like it very much. I suspect this is why he made a video about me. Perfect. There's all sorts of shit talk and banter or whatever back and forth as well. Just on Twitter. Just fun stuff like photoshopping my logo onto Alex Jones. Some snarky stuff and other bits and pieces. And I thought to myself, if I say to the CEO, look at this guy you sponsored, he's making you look bad now, what would happen? So I kept provoking him, and hey, what do you know? The CEO started trying to get in touch with him. I don't know if she managed to or what she'd say to him, but I know she tried. And I also know that, having waited a little while since then, when I try to provoke him now, he certainly seems a bit more polite. He doesn't try to insult me. No way to know what happened, but there's my experiment and the results for you to consider. I suspect there might be a further development following this video. Now that that funny intermission's over, it's time to get a bit more serious again. When I was DMing with the company's CEO, something she said to me stood out. She said, "Here's the thing, it's totally false and extremely inaccurate to say we are in cohorts with Google or any other large company." It stood out because I didn't actually present that as something I was considering. I said almost the opposite. These guys are ex-Google and they're doing something very similar to what Google's doing right now. Maybe they're trying to compete. That's about as far away as you can get from saying they're in cahoots together. But now that the lady doth protest so much, I think it's worth mentioning that one of their advisors, Lewis Gray, who's listed on their becandid.com website, according to his LinkedIn account, he leads the Google Analytics advocacy team. Maybe they're not in cahoots with Google, but there's definitely a connection, however weak it may or may not be. So here you go, you get to enjoy another tinfoil theory. This one's for the OG conspiracy theorists. What if they can't sell the AI, the so-called AI, because it's not theirs? You might say, well, ask them then. But the thing some commenters aren't getting is that I did, before my first video in fact, and they have yet to respond to my email asking about the AI. So here's the idea. What if their AI is a version of Google's Jigsaw conversation AI tailored to their site? Here's its description. Conversation AI. Few things poison conversations online more than abusive language, threats, and harassment. We're studying how computers can learn to understand the nuances and context of abusive language at scale. If successful, machine learning could help publishers and moderators improve comments on their platforms and enhance the exchange of ideas on the internet. Now look, I don't think it is this. I want to believe Google's tool would be a bit better than what we've seen from Candid, but this is a good excuse to point out Google's thing, which I think needs eyes on it. Because if you're worried about the Candid bot, this thing is being explicitly designed to be rolled out and used across the web. Listen to this from Wired. The article's called Inside Google's Internet Justice League and its AI-powered war on trolls. At one point in the article they say, Wikipedia and The Times will be the first to try out Google's automated harassment detector on comment threads and article discussion pages. Wikimedia is still considering exactly how it will use the tool, while The Times plans to make Conversation AI the first pass of its website's comments, blocking any abuse it detects until it can be moderated by a human. Gee, doesn't this sound familiar? How are they improving this tool? How do they train it? Well, show millions of vile internet comments to Google's self-improving artificial intelligence engine, and it can recognize a troll. That's going to be how anything like this works though, isn't it? It doesn't mean Candid's got a version of this, but I do find it interesting that the way it works, the way it rates comments, seems to be the same. Exactly the same, that is. Here's a description of how Google's bot functions from Wired. Andy Greenberg, the writer of the piece, says, "My own hands-on test of Conversation AI comes one summer afternoon in Jigsaw's office, when the group's engineers show me a prototype and invite me to come up with a sample of verbal filth for it to analyze. Wincing. I suggest the first ambiguously abusive and misogynist phrase that comes to mind. What's up, bitch? Adams types in the sentence and clicks score. Conversation AI instantly rates it a 63 out of 100 on the attack scale. Then, for contrast, Adams shows me the results of a more clearly vicious phrase. You are such a bitch. it rates a 96. So it's a score-based thing about how strong what's being said is. Now compare how Google's AI functions to how Candid's CEO explains their AI in an interview on NPR.com. On how automated moderation works. The way other artificial intelligence works is it basically parses your sentence. We use a deep learning NLP algorithm, which basically looks at what you're saying and decides whether it's positive or negative. So it kind of classifies things as having a negative sentiment or a positive sentiment. I think it's a good time to note that humans can't even fucking do that. That's why the YouTube Heroes thing sucks, when they said negative stuff. People are constantly misinterpreting stuff on the net as being negative, when it isn't. Isn't the bot just going to conform to one idea of negativity? Great. Anyway, she continues, and this is the important part. It then gives it a score of how kind of strong your statement is. Let's say you said something about someone, or you threatened someone. It classifies that as saying, hey, this is a very strong statement, because these kinds of categories are not good in terms of social discourse. And when we do that, we basically say if this thing has a score which is more than a particular level, a cutoff, then we basically take out the whole post. So whether it's self-harm or like bullying or harassment, we look for certain phrases and the context of those phrases. Sounds exactly like what Google's Jigsaw is doing. That scores things based on how strong they are by examining phrases and context. Why isn't their advisor who works for Google and is all about analytics saying, oh, hang on guys, you're wasting money, Google's got this? Seems weird. But what do I know? Advising another company on how to copy what your company's making. Is that what's happening? Oh well, I just wish they'd answer the questions I emailed to them on the 26th. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.